Do you ever wake up feeling like the world is actively working against you? Like your efforts are completely pointless, no matter how hard you try to force an outcome? That crushing sense of powerlessness is exactly what gave birth to Stoicism. The primary goal of the original Stoics was to answer a painfully human question: how do we achieve true happiness when so much of life is out of our hands? They weren't looking for fleeting, day to day contentment. They were chasing a profound, unshakable tranquility and a deep peace of mind that remains incredibly relevant to our lives today. To understand Stoicism, we first have to look at the rebels who inspired it, the Cynics. The most famous was Diogenes of Sinope. Their name comes from the Greek word "kion," meaning dog, a label Diogenes fully embraced. He saw polite society as entirely fake, teaching that our endless hunger for status, money, and public approval was the exact reason we are all so unhappy. To escape this trap, he chose to live according to nature. He moved into a ceramic tub in the center of Athens and stripped his life down to the absolute bare minimum. He was so committed that when he saw a boy drinking water from his bare hands, Diogenes immediately threw away his own cup, realizing he was still carrying around things he didn't actually need. This radical lifestyle led to a legendary standoff with Alexander the Great. As the most powerful conqueror in the world stood over Diogenes, who was happily sunbathing in the dirt, Alexander offered him absolutely anything he wanted. Diogenes didn't even stand up. He just replied, "Stand aside, you're blocking the sun." Faced with a man who could not be bought or intimidated, Alexander famously declared, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." But living in a dirt-stained tub and rejecting society entirely wasn't exactly a realistic path to peace for everyday people. Out of the raw, rebellious defiance of cynicism grew Stoicism, a philosophy specifically built to survive the messy reality of the real world. Its incredible evolution is best understood through the drastically different lives of four men: Zeno, its founder; Seneca, the extremely wealthy politician; Epictetus, the unbroken slave; and Marcus Aurelius, the burdened emperor. Zeno of Citium took the extreme ideals of cynicism and forged them into a viable everyday philosophy. He recognized that completely abandoning society was simply unworkable. Instead, he wanted to extract the unshakable mental toughness of the dog and apply it directly to normal everyday life. He taught that you could be a fully engaged citizen, hold public office, and raise a family as long as you cultivated an untouchable internal fortress. Zeno delivered these practical teachings from a public painted colonnade known in Greek as the Stoa Poikile. His movement became known as Stoicism, which essentially just translates to Porchism. The second Stoic is Lucius Seneca, a man who proves that philosophy doesn't demand poverty. As the tutor to Emperor Nero and one of the wealthiest individuals in Rome, Seneca lived in a world of absolute luxury. Yet he argued that a wise person can enjoy wealth without being enslaved by it. His rule was simple: keep your fortune in your home, but never in your heart. This is exactly why Seneca resonates so deeply today in the high-stakes worlds of finance and technology. He proves you can navigate the heights of worldly success without losing your soul, provided you maintain an unbreakable internal fortress. Our third figure is Epictetus. Today, we casually say break a leg to wish someone luck. But for Epictetus, it was the ultimate agonizing test of his philosophy. Epictetus was born into Roman slavery, and his very name literally meant property. His cruel master once sadistically twisted his leg to torture him. Stoicism isn't a magic painkiller; a snapping bone is blinding, horrific agony. But Epictetus knew that screaming would only surrender his mind to a tyrant. Breathing through the shock, he calmly warned his master the bone would break. When it finally snapped, he didn't beg for mercy. He simply asked, "Didn't I tell you it would break?" The pain was real, but he refused to let it define his character. He eventually gained his freedom and transformed his grueling resilience into a profoundly influential legacy. He opened a school that served not as a traditional classroom, but as a practical hospital for the human soul. Finally, there is Marcus Aurelius. As the Emperor of Rome, he held absolute unchecked power over the known world. Yet he is remembered for his breathtaking self-mastery. His famous Meditations wasn't a book written for public applause. It was a private, unpolished journal, jotted down in freezing military tents on the empire's muddy frontiers. Every day, his main struggle was using philosophy as medicine to fight off his own ego, his deep frustrations, and the constant temptation to become a tyrant. In those private freezing tents, he constantly reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And perhaps his most vulnerable thought strips away the emperor and reveals the man. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." The Stoics believed the ultimate goal of life was eudaimonia, a flourishing state of deep peace and inner freedom. To reach that state, they built their philosophy on a few foundational pillars, the most immediate and practical being the dichotomy of control. This is the daily practice of ruthlessly separating what is actually up to you from what is not. The breakdown is simple. You control your judgments, your choices, and your actions. You do not control your body's aging, the weather, the past, or the opinions and behaviors of other people. Understanding this is the ultimate cure for anxiety. Most of our anxiety stems from trying to force an external outcome that is completely out of our hands. By pulling your energy back and pouring it entirely into your own character and your own responses, you immediately stop feeling like a victim. As Epictetus proved, true freedom is entirely psychological. It is a profound ancient truth that perfectly matches the modern serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. If the dichotomy of control clears away the anxiety and the noise, the four cardinal virtues act as your compass. The Stoics believe that things like wealth and status are just nice to have, but they don't actually make you a peaceful person. True, unshakable happiness only comes from cultivating these four traits: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. First is practical wisdom. This isn't about being book smart. It is the emotional intelligence to pause in the middle of a deeply frustrating situation and navigate it logically without being blinded by anger or fear. Second is courage. We almost always picture battlefield bravery, but to the Stoics, courage is about daily endurance. It is the quiet internal strength to face grief, illness, and profound uncertainty without losing your integrity. Third is justice. This goes far beyond the legal system. It is the emotional recognition of our shared humanity. It means treating others with genuine empathy and understanding that when people act out, it usually stems from their own suffering and ignorance rather than pure malice. Finally, temperance. This is the art of self-discipline and moderation. It is the emotional mastery to finally know when you have enough, protecting your mind from the exhausting endless treadmill of always chasing more. Ultimately, Stoicism isn't a cold, emotionless academic exercise. It is a deeply human operating system, designed to protect us from the agonizing anxiety of trying to control the uncontrollable. By building an internal fortress and orienting our lives around virtue, we don't shut the world out. We learn to live fully within it. We learn to face profound grief, daily frustrations, and the chaos of existence, not with panic, but with an unshakable, resilient peace. Because at the end of the day, true freedom comes down to the simple, profound truth taught by Epictetus. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters.